Okay, there we go. Now, what I need to do is bring up you.
Hello, my beautiful people and criminologists and trial junkies out there. How are we all doing tonight? We're going to talk about a case that just concluded. I want to thank Lil Miss. She got me some of the data on this case. We've had so many big cases coming up, and everybody's been paying attention to Lori Daybell and Karen Reed and Brian Kohlberger. That this is a case that kind of slipped by. There wasn't a lot of publicity. It really wasn't. They didn't show it on court TV, but in snippets. Law and Crime didn't show it either. So we're going to delve into this one because it's really a sad case, and it was terrible how the victim got victimized by the court system. So what we're going to talk about is Ashley Henning, and she was a military person. So was her husband, Jordan Henning. And they both were living in Kentucky. And so let's start with what happened that day. Okay. They'd been married since 2016. She previously had 2 sons. And then while they were married, he found out that he had, I guess, fathered a child. And so when he found out, he got custody, and Ashley adopted her. And so they had a girl. So they had 3 children. And the 13-year-old girl was home sick in bed with pink eye. If you're a parent, I'm sure you've all dealt with it. And before I get too deep in this, I want to say hello to Sarah and Krista. Thank you guys for being here so much. Love you both very, very much. And this case is, you're going to get mad. I can tell you right now, it's not good. It's not good how this one happened, and it's a little infuriating. So let's delve into it. Ashley was a sergeant first class in the military, and she outranked her husband, who was a staff sergeant at the time. And so it was her 37th birthday, and they said that she really didn't like to celebrate her birthday since her grandmother had passed away, because that was something, she did with her grandma. So it was kind of a bad time for her. But her friends and some of the friends in the neighborhood, because I guess they were all pretty close in that area, decided to give her a birthday party. And so they all showed up and, brought stuff, and the kids were playing on the slip and the slide, and they were just, having a drink, and, she was blowing out candles on cupcakes, and it was her 37th birthday, and someone had mixed them up and it said 73, and she was laughing and having a good day. Well, it seems that her husband, Staff Sergeant Jordan, decided that every time he walked toward her, he would try and, like rub her cheek, rub her shoulders, and she kept telling him to stop. And, would tell him, get off me, so the neighbors kind of were used to that. Jordan had a habit of talking to some of his friends about that Ashley was not affectionate, that there was no intimacy in the marriage. And so, he was a big crybaby. And sorry, I got a cat that's trying to find one of our other cats. Moo, come here.
No.
Oh, is it Sky?
Yeah, that was Sky.
Sky's going, hello. So anyway, Jordan, he was also, I guess, a prepper, because one of the neighbors said that a week before this all happened, before her birthday, he was talking to his neighbor about how he had a top 10 list, that if anything ever happened, if there was ever, like an apocalypse, whether it was, due to, economic, or, some other country invading, I guess, or any kind of, earth-shattering event, that he had a top 10 list of people that he was going to delete, because either they posed a threat to him, or he said that they had stuff that he could use. And so this neighbor of his, James, or Jimmy Watts, was, they asked him, were you on the list? He goes, no, he told me I wasn't a threat and I didn't have anything that he needed. But he said some of our neighbors surrounding us were on his list. Like, great, this guy's telling you. And then he also informed them that his family would be fine, in the event that it didn't get really bad. If it got bad, the only one that would survive was the middle boy, Carter, because he considered Carter his mini-me. He was close to Carter, which was Ashley's youngest. And so, and he said Carter can tough it out. So he'd be okay, but the rest of them would have to go. And I mean, he's talking about his family. And this was a week before he deleted her. Okay. So let's get back to I guess Rogue's coming to say hello to me. Anyway, so they were at the party. He said they had all gone outside and they were starting to, wind the evening down and discuss, one of the girls was getting married, and they had told him it was a business casual look, and he wanted to make sure that what he was going to wear was appropriate. So he was showing her pictures or something, because he says everybody feels different about what casual, attire is. And so, they're doing this. And as they're leaving again, and this was like the third or fourth time, he tried to rub Ashley's shoulders. And she told him to get off of her. She'd had enough. So they went in the house and they're going to start cleaning up. Now, as they're cleaning up, he starts this thing where he asks her what her thoughts are on what he could do for her, because he goes, I just want to serve you, which is a very odd statement. And because they have cameras in the house, this is caught on camera. Hey, Krusty Shackelford, my Dune buddies here, and so's Fala. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us. So anyway, so they go in, so she's like, well, you need help cleaning. So he goes down to the basement to start cleaning up after this birthday party. And all of a sudden, I guess she screams out. And he's like, I just wondered what I'd done this time, because he's just pouring. He actually took the stand, you guys. And he cried like a baby, but they weren't tears coming out. That was the weird thing. And so he took the stand and he said that he thought to himself, well, what have I done to her now? What have I done wrong? And so he went upstairs, and what she was wanting was, she was in the backyard and she was trying to get help getting the slip and slide put up. Well, he decided that the youngest son, Carter, needed to come down and take care of it, because that had been the deal they'd made with him, that if you get the slip and slide out, then you have to put it up. Now, when the defense was giving their opening statement, that's not what they said. They said Jordan got the slip and slide out for the kids. So right there, they contradicted themselves. But so Jordan says, I told her that we'd made a deal that if Carter got it out, he would put it up, and he needs to do that. And then he started in about how she was undermining him. She's overruling me all the time. And I think that really is stemming from, she outranked him, and I think he had problems with that. And so then he starts yelling for Carter. Well, Carter was taking a shower, getting cleaned up to go to bed. Like I said, their daughter, who was 13, she's in bed with pink eye. The older boy was in his room, and I think he was playing on his game station or something. And so he goes up there and gets Carter to come down and gets the kid out there. And with the view, they don't show us totally everything, but you can hear him yelling at the kid, and he's screaming at him. Because it was dark, Carter couldn't see. He was trying to find out what it was his father was trying to get him to look at, to put this thing up. And so he's carrying on. So in the picture right there, that's him yelling up the stairs at Carter. And Ashley's trying to get him to stop, because she's like, he's in the shower. Eventually he gets Carter, and, like I said, they go in the backyard. Well, eventually he starts getting rough with Ashley, and some of the neighbors that testified and her friends made the comment that, well, when he would get gruff or rough with her, she never would do anything. She would just sit there. She wouldn't react. And maybe that's what he wanted, was a reaction. And that's their little boy running to go outside. And so they said that, she had had some to drink. He had had a lot to drink. And so I guess finally she told Carter to run get the neighbor. And so he ran and knocked on the neighbor's door, to get his mom some help. And so then while he's doing that, and he gets like two of the neighbors, one of them did come over. And Jordan said that at that time, right before that happened, him and Ashley were having an argument in the backyard. And he says that she grabbed him by the family jewels and drug him across the yard. Now, he's a big guy in this picture, bigger than her. And as he was supposedly being drugged by the family jewels, he grabs Carter and puts Carter between them. Now, if you really cared for this child, you wouldn't be dragging him into the middle of a supposed fight. So he says he was able to finally grab her wrist and throw her on the ground and hold her. Hey, William, glad you got here. And so she's on the ground. Carter runs for help, and Jimmy comes over, and Jimmy yells at him, "Get off of her." Because I think a lot of their neighbors were either military or former military. And so Jimmy is telling her to get off. And so as you know, and then he starts yelling at Jimmy, and he jumps off of her and chases Jimmy down and puts him in a headlock. Well, Jimmy finally gets away from him, and Jordan tells them on the stand that Jimmy told him, "I'm going to go get a gun." Now, Jimmy has witnesses that said he never said that. That's something that Jordan is making up. It was never said out loud. He never said, "I'm getting a gun." And so then Jordan runs in the house and gets a gun. Now, this is a picture of Ashley. You can find the video online, you guys, if you want to see it. They show a lot of it. And I think there are a few shots that they don't show, but I decided not to show you. I'm showing you stills. This is Ashley coming out of the kitchen. She's going upstairs, and she tells her children, the 13-year-old and the older boy, "We're having an argument. Stay in your rooms, shut your doors." So she's trying to protect her kids. And if you can see by that picture, her hair is pulled out. It's messy. Before, it was back in a braid. So you can tell something did occur. And so she goes all the way up the stairs, and he follows her. He comes running behind. So she's trying to get away, and he is following her, okay? And he follows her up the stairs and proceeds to keep yelling. So she ends up coming, back down, because she doesn't want him near the children when he's like this. And even the neighbors made the comment. One of the neighbors said that one of Robert was a former military police, an MP, and he told him he is angry and intoxicated. We should get out of here, because the last he saw him, he had something behind his back, and he says, "I'm not sure what he has. He could have a gun. So we need to call 911. Well, it took forever for one of them, because a lot of the guys had left their phones at home, because their neighbor said, "Hey, come." The kid says, "I need you guys." They come running, and they left their phones either at home or charging or whatever. But finally, one of the women that was married to one of these gentlemen, she had her phone, and they called 911. Now, Jordan heard them calling, and he yells out for them to leave and to hang up the phone. So he's clear enough that he knows what they're doing. So while he's upstairs, he gets a gun. He comes back down the stairs, and then after he comes down, he goes into the kitchen. And you're able to see from the stills, and that's their 13-year-old daughter had to testify that they were told to shut their doors, because of this argument. They didn't show her on camera, but yeah, she had to testify to the fact. But so he goes into the kitchen with his gun, and he chases her, because she was sitting right outside the kitchen, I guess on the patio. And so she comes running in as he shoots her, 3 times. And she falls on the floor, and he continues to shoot. And then the gun jams. So then you see him as he's trying to, unjam the gun. Yeah, and the daughter did see her mother pinned down on the deck outside her window. So that is accurate, that she did see her mom on the ground. So now we have that he's chased her, he shot her 3 times. The gun is jammed. He's clearing it. He leaves the room and goes and gets another magazine, puts it in, comes walking back in, walks up to her, and shoots her again. 4 times in the torso. Now, this whole time, you can hear her on the video moaning. I mean, she's in pain. Then he spits on her and he leaves the house. Okay? I mean, and they end up picking him up. And this was before, as he went to get the gun, he pushes her. He pushes her out of his way. And they said that you can hear her telling him, she was telling him to put the gun down when he came back. Put the gun down, don't, but he didn't listen. He shot her. And then he left. The cops eventually pick him up. Okay. We get him picked up. And the whole time he's whining. She's so mean to me. She's been abusing me for years, and he's just going on his little whiner binge. And I'm not saying that there aren't women that aren't abusive. It does happen. But with this guy, with his demeanor on the stand, no one ever saw her abuse him. He literally got up there and said that she had tied him up and raped him, and that he had begged her to stop one time. And it was just like, okay. I mean, the things he was saying about his wife, it just kind of broke your heart, because everybody else that talked about what a loving person she was, how awesome she was. When he was on the stand, his attorney, he was like, well, why didn't she want you to touch her? And his words were, that's not her love language. Her love language is acts of service and quality time. Now, you can't tell me that man didn't spend time with a psychiatrist to come up with all that, because I don't know a whole lot of guys that are going to go, hey, my love language. Now, I'm not saying nothing. There may be some sensitive guys out there, but I just don't run across them very often. I mean, Doc, have you ever said what your love language was?
No. Not.
That's not part of your vocabulary?
No, not really. No.
Okay, so then, we come to the trial. And once we get to this trial, you guys, he has lost a lot of weight. He doesn't even look like the same person. I mean, you see this man on the stand and it's just like, who is he? It's just like, because you saw the guy with the blonde hair and, kind of heavy set. This guy is slimmed down. His hair's dark. He's got a beard. Totally different persona. And the neighbors get up and they're all testifying as to, the things he said. He used to go to this one. There's a picture of what he looked like recently at a trial. Totally different person. He doesn't look like the same guy. So he gets up there and he's talking about how, he was abused and all these things were happening. But when the neighbors are talking and the friends, the one friend was saying that, how Ashley was just, not affectionate to him. I don't know too many guys that would go to a friend's house and talk to the husband and the wife about his physical relationship with his wife. I mean, I know guys talk and women talk, but usually you're not talking together about it. It just, I just thought that was a little odd, that he was telling the wife that she was like him, and it was just, and she went berserk on the stand because she was a friend of Ashley's. So she did not have a lot of good things to say. In fact, her and the defense attorney almost came to blows. That was kind of amusing to watch that, because I don't think it helped her any, or helped, the wife's case any by her acting up. But you could tell she was sticking up for her friend because she'd had it. And like I said, the neighbors talked about him being the dude that was always talking about his top 10 list of who he had to delete in case of, I guess the zombie apocalypse showing up. And so he had one friend get up there and testify about coming to the home and joining Watts as Jordan was yelling at him, and how they, he didn't want them to call the police. He told them that they needed to mind their own business. And he's like, well, he's always been a great guy to me. I'd never seen this side of him, so that was something that he was telling the attorney. Now, Jimmy Watts, he was the one that actually got into an altercation because Jordan put him in a headlock. So you knew the guy was aggressive. For some reason, I don't know, it took everybody forever to call 911. Robert, he said he broke after allegedly, he told his defense attorney, Robert Eggert, that he allegedly broke after enduring years of verbal and emotional and physical abuse with his wife, Ashley. He said it just got to a point that he doesn't know how he got there. He doesn't even remember doing it. He said, I just remember standing over her and shooting, and I think the thing that kind of tipped this case over was they had a former. Now, that right there is a picture of the prosecutor. He did not do enough of his homework. I think he figured he had the video, because this is all on video because of the cameras in the house. They have him shooting his wife. They have him spitting on his wife. It's like there should have been no question. He should have gone down for this, first degree. That's it. No questions. But because they had this ex-military psychiatrist come in, and he said that Jordan he'd only deployed once, I guess. I didn't think he had deployed. He had deployed once. He was supposed to go to Kuwait, and he ended up going to Iraq into a combat zone. But he had gone to the combat school. Oh, that's a picture of her cousin. And he's a Marine and had been a Marine for 22 years. That man ripped the jury apart. He told them they were all just, losers. The judge was not happy with him. Let's just say that. But he stood up for Ashley. So he said that what happened was, let's see, where was I? Okay. So the psychiatrist said that what happened with Jordan was he didn't have a flashpoint, which when they talk about a flashpoint, that is when, something happens and it's just like all of a sudden things happen and they kind of forget and they don't even know what happened. Okay. It's just, let's see, it says, let me see, where was that? I looked that up. They say it's an emotional intensity of exchange between the partners, and things can happen and then they won't even have a memory of it, because that's kind of what Jordan is claiming, right? Well, the thing was, the psychiatrist said he didn't have a flashpoint. So he's not even going along with what his psychiatrist told him, which I thought was interesting. But the psychiatrist said that because he had gone to this, I guess, combat training or combat school, 9 times, that everything was muscle memory. And so it was like he was back, with the in combat, So they're saying that, the stress got to him. He even said the testosterone got to him. Now, this is a man that said his wife made fun of him because he had low testosterone levels and he had to take testosterone. But yet his testosterone got to him. So I guess you dudes, if your testosterone gets too high, you're A-okay, in that guy's eyes. Because, it's not your fault. Your testosterone got high and so you shot your wife. I mean, really. I just don't know how that guy said that with a straight face. And so anyway, Moo, stop it. She's a naughty kitty today. And so after the psychiatrist said this, I got to thinking, okay, he went to training 9 times. I mean, I know they have to train. That's normal, but that doesn't make you murder your wife. He said he was getting his gun because one of the this is a picture of one of the neighbors. This isn't Jimmy. This is one of the other ones. And he was the one that said Robert told him this guy's angry and intoxicated. So he said he went to get his gun because he thought his neighbors were going to hurt him. Okay. But he didn't shoot the neighbors. He killed his wife. He chased her. He stood over her. His gun jammed. He went and got a new magazine in another room, came back in, shot her one last time, and spit on her. What does that have to do with combat? Because normally in combat situations, you shoot to kill. You don't come back later and say, what's going on? You do what you're supposed to do and go on. And I just, none of that makes sense. And so so that what they were trying to plead was extreme emotional disturbance. Because in Kentucky, if you can say that he had an extreme emotional disturbance, then he's not as liable than if he had planned this. Which that still doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because, I think he did plan it. He had told one of his neighbors the week before that if he ever killed someone, all he have to do because of his career was tell him that he had PTSD or, he'd be fine.
That was a good comment that William,
my ex-wife was not nice or affectionate. I don't mean to bash, but we got a divorce. I would never think to shoot her. I'm not going to jail for someone who's mean to me. I'm going to go to the beach. I agree, William. And Cresty, yes, that does not sound like training does not cause you to go into muscle memory. That's the part that just, and the jury, I mean, you hate to put a racial stance on this, but okay, Jordan, of course, is white. He was married to a black woman, and there was only one black woman on the jury, but when they got ready to deliberate, they pulled her number, they said, as an alternate. And someone told me, so I know it was an all-white jury, but someone thought it was an all-male jury. I don't know. So maybe the dudes were upset because supposedly she grabbed him by the family jewels and drug him around the yard, which I don't believe that either. I just don't. Because someone would have seen it eventually. And nobody ever saw it. And also, if she was pulling it hard enough, eventually she would have ripped one off. I mean, come on. If she was that cruel to him. I mean, have these people not heard of divorce? Get a divorce. This is ridiculous. And so, but this is what this psychiatrist was saying. And it was like they put all their trust in what this man said. And I think truthfully, what it was he was upset that his wife outranked him. I think their marriage was bad. I'm not saying they were in a good relationship anymore. I don't know what happened in the marriage, but it no longer was a good relationship. Now, this is the judge. He was funny. At one point, the defense tried to get the case thrown out because he saw a post on Facebook where someone called him a racist, the defense attorney. And the judge told him, he says, well, I'm sorry. I said, I don't think you're a racist. I hope you're not a racist, but just because someone calls you something mean, we are not throwing out the trial. And I mean, he really kept trying to get the judge on someone posting something on Facebook. And it was like, oh, we're not going to do that. And he goes, well, I at least want to make well, we're not going to do that. He says, you have no motion here that you're basing this on. It's just because someone said something mean about you. It's like, get over it. So that was enlightening. But boy, did he rip into the cousin that told the jury that they were disgusting. That was, I kind of felt sorry for the cousin, because he said, I have been a Marine for 22 years. I have gone into combat zones, been deployed to combat zones 7 times, deployed 9 times. And this is what I get for justice for my cousin when I come back. He just couldn't believe it, because the jury only deliberated for 4 hours and they gave him manslaughter. Manslaughter 1, which is only 20 years. He got 20 years, and this happened in 2023. So he's been in jail. So he's already been, it was June. So he's coming up on 2 years, this June, and he only has to serve 85%. And that's it. So, he'll be able to get out. I mean, he still has to get through parole. Hopefully somebody on the parole board has a clue and doesn't let him just walk off, because this is wrong, man. I mean, Ashley was a beautiful person. But like I said, I do think that the prosecutor let her down by not digging deeper and getting more answers. Because in opening statements, he did not talk about her military career. Well, the defense, that's all he talked about. We don't leave a man behind on the battlefield. Don't leave him. It wasn't a battlefield. It was his home. That was his wife, not the enemy. It's just, that was just terrible. But the one thing that I thought was really interesting was that after this happened, let me see if I can find it. It said Ashley Henning, 37, was shot and killed by her husband. Okay. She was active duty. They both were military out of Fort Knox. She was a master sergeant before her death. It said on the same day she was killed, Ashley was how do you say that? Posthumously?
Posthumously?
Yes.
Posthumously.
Posthumously. Thank you. Yeah. He has to correct my vocabulary, guys. Things come out wrong a lot. But so
something like that. I don't know. Something
like that?
Yeah.
Thanks, Doc. So she was promoted to Master Sergeant, Ashley Henning. Ashley had served in the U.S. military since 2005. She was deployed several times, making tours to Iraq from 2006 to 2007, Afghanistan from 2009 to 2010, to Kuwait from 2015 to 2016. She had the Army Commendation Medal, 6th Award. She had the Army Achievement Award, 4th Award. The Army Good Conduct Medal, 5th Award. National Defense Service Medal. Afghanistan Campaign Medal with Campaign Star. Iraq Campaign Medal with Campaign Star. Global War on Terrorism Expeditiously Award Medal. I'm sorry, I didn't get that one right. Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, Armed Forces Service Medal, Non-Commissioned Officers Professional Development Ribbon, 3rd Award, Army Service Ribbon, Overseas Service Ribbon, 3rd Ribbon, NATO Medal, Meritorious Unit Commendation, 2nd Award. If anyone's in the military, and I'm absolutely butchering
Meritorious.
Meritorious. Thank you, Doc. If I'm butchering these, I apologize. And then she got a driver and mechanic badge. So that was who Ashley was. And you can't find out stuff on his career, except that supposedly he deployed once. He was supposed to go to Kuwait and he ended up in Iraq. She was deployed 3 times that we know of. They have the dates, they have all the awards she's won, so I have a hard time believing his story. They had nobody thought that he was going to get this. Everybody thought he was going to get life. You heard these people when they would talk about the cases online. Other psychologists, court people, and they all said, oh yeah, well, once they see the tape, nah. For some reason, they believed his sad tale. Yeah, Christy, I hear you. I'm devastated. I cannot believe they did this to her. Yeah. And her friend said, what do you expect out of a jury? Here in Kentucky, she said they made her sound like the angry Black woman. And poor Jordan had to get away from the angry Black woman. And that is so wrong, because that's not who this girl was. She believed in her service and, her family. She cared about her family. And when you stop and think about it, they kept talking about how she was agitated that night, and kept telling him to quit touching. She didn't want to celebrate her birthday. She didn't want a birthday party, but her friends all kind of put her in the position to have one. And so it just kind of, it was a bad night. And they even tried to get the coroner's report not being read out loud by the detective, because they were having a hard time getting the medical examiner to be at the trial for some reason. I guess he finally did show up, but the defense didn't even want the detective to read the report by saying it was hearsay. It's a legal document. This is not hearsay. This is a medical examiner's report of her death. And it was bad, because they said basically after she was shot, it was drowning, in blood in her lungs. And they tried, her friends, the neighbors, they all tried their best to help her, but he'd shot her 4 times. So that's the story of Ashley Henning. And I just felt like people need to know her story. They need to know what happened, because instead of her getting justice, it feels like they victimized her again by putting out these crazy stories that nobody believed, but yet they're out there in public now. These are things her children will eventually hear when they reach an age, because kids, they're going to hear this stuff. I could not find where the children are now, so I don't know who has custody of them. Hopefully they're with her family, because they deserve justice. And to think that and that's another thing, why nobody charged him for deleting his wife while minor children were in the home. You would think that would have been a charge. But I don't know why they didn't do that. It's really wrong, because she deserves the justice. She was an outstanding officer and her first master sergeant, and she loved her career and she loved her family. And that idiot, just decided that he'd had enough and deleted her because he was angry and drunk. And I guess he decided the zombie apocalypse was coming. I don't know. The guy was nuts. But anyway, we have all these cases where we're always talking about the wife, right? Okay, I'm going to bring you one. This is just a little short one. It was one that just kind of made headlines. And this is about a woman because, well, we all know the female teachers have all lost their minds. That's not even a thought. I don't know what's going on with them. But this chick, oh, she's special. This took place. Let me quick pull this up for you. Let me see. Because this actually, there we go. This is going to be a fun one because, again, her name is incredible. She's 20 years old, Angela Ermova, from Pennsylvania. She was sentenced to 23 months in jail. This is why. She falsely accused a stranger of a brutal assault and kidnapping just because she saw him in his truck and thought he was creepy. Hey, JD, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. We love you too, you and Jax. You're very special. And Jax is the one that got me on camera. So thank you, Jax. I love you for that. Because trust me, there aren't a lot of photos of me and I hide as much as possible. But here I am, thanks to Jax. But so this chick literally saw that, and I'm not putting his picture up. It was in the article, but he doesn't deserve that. This man spent 31 days in jail for a crime he didn't commit. She later admitted she made up the whole thing. So she got up to 23 months in jail, $3,600 in restitution that she has to give, and undergo a mental evaluation. But like the DA said, crimes like this, how do you come back from that kind of damage? Because this man's name got put out there that he had, assaulted her and kidnapped her. And all because she saw him drive by in his truck. She didn't know him, had never met him. What is wrong with people? She ruined his life, and I mean, yeah, someone might think 31 days isn't that much in jail, but he had a family. They didn't tell us if he lost his job but he may have. I don't know, but I won't put his photo up because he looks like just a dude. I don't think the man's creepy. I think he just was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and this little psycho decided that, she was going to cause some mischief. And I hope they make her stay 23 months in jail. She deserves it. She needs to stay in there and learn a lesson, because you don't go around accusing people of stuff that they don't do. I mean, please. This is just so wrong. But yes, that's a lovely picture of her. I'll put her picture up all over and I did all over my social media, because I think she deserves to be up there. She deserves a special spot because she tried to ruin his life, and well, now she's there. But that's pretty much the cases we were talking about. Anybody got any questions? William, I think she is nuts. Yeah, and accusations can ruin someone's life. Because all he's got to do is have one person that believes it, and
Fangirling over your gorgeous hair.
Thank you. Oh, Jax, you're amazing. You are. I love your videos. Every now and then I go and rewatch them because they're fun. And I tell all my friends to go watch them because you're amazing. And I want you to know that we're proud of you and you encourage us every day. And that's what's important is we have to encourage each other because this world right now is rough enough. You know, there's too much ugliness. We report on it because it needs to get out there. It needs to be said, just like Ashley needs her story told. Moo, what are you doing? Unfortunately, we had to put one of our kitties down, and it was the one that was closest to Moo. And so she has just been wandering around because she doesn't know where he's at. And she's kind of lost, my poor little Moo Moo. But yeah, so I'm glad we got Ashley's story out there. You know, if you get a chance to put it on your social media, hey, put something out there. Because she deserves her story to be told, you know. But I didn't look up the latest I saw on Emily Pike, the little Apache girl that had been deleted in Arizona, was that they were doing some, you know, getting some people together to go search for the missing parts, you know. And hey, JD says, love to you, Moo Moo. She says love to Zero and Moxie. But yeah, I think the tribe thinks they're going to find, because her hands and arms were missing. That's the only parts that were missing. I think they're missing because there's evidence there. I think the poor child put up a fight. And so, yeah, I don't know if they'll find them. JD, I saw that. I watched Roma's episode on that with that woman accusing her. Oh, that's another crazy person that needs to be put up all over the place. Roma didn't deserve that. She had the receipts, man. That was awesome. If any of you haven't seen that, check it out. Because let me see if I can find her. What the channel name is. JD, do you know that offhand? Is it just under her name, or my brain's kind of, you know, Sarah, I know everybody wants to help with the Emily Pike situation. And I thought a good way that, you know, if they do have a good way to help, Krista shared something with me, was that she had bought some goods at one of the tribes, you know, stores, or well, the First Nations up in Canada. And so maybe that's something we could do.
We're having problems here, technical difficulties here.
Okay, okay, thank you, baby. Thanks, Doc. Takes care of me. Because I'm a walking disaster without him. Trust me. He is the one and only, the greatest dude I've ever met. I married him for pretty, not smart, but he turned out to be the smartest dude I ever met, too. So I won the lottery. I really did with that one. Let's see, where it was. I'm trying to, okay. There. Roma Army. That, I want to make sure I get that right. Yes, Roma Army. That's whoa. Whoops. Roma Army. Check that her latest video out, because she did get accused of something that was totally false. She has the receipts. Not that she has to show them, but she did, and I'm proud of her. She stuck up for herself. Yeah, Matt, you're right. People need to stop putting, you know, others down just to get their 15 minutes, because it's not fair, you know? Will Group is doing a lot of good raising awareness. Okay, I'll check into them. I like to cover a lot of the MMIW cases here in the United States and also in the First Nations in Canada. I'm working on 2 stories. Let's see, up in Canada and 1 here, or 2 here. One's in Wyoming. I think the other's in one of the Dakotas. I can't remember. But yeah, so that's something that is very dear and close to my heart. Well, it's about time to wind up, you guys. I'll be live again on Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central. I know I always have a hard time getting everybody's time zones. Krista, that's 7 p.m. for you, dear, because I know she always asks me. So anyway, I love you all. I really appreciate you guys coming. I really do. This was a big step for me to do this. Thanks to Jax and my doc, who supports me in everything I do. And I love all you guys. And you know what? I'll see you on Thursday. Until then, if you have a question, my email's in here. It's just trialjunkies@gmail.com, nothing fancy. If there's a story you want looked into or you have a question,